A trip of a lifetime in so many ways. I'm back with yet again another paranormal experience that occurred during my 1989 trip to England, Cornwall, and Wales. I experienced this paranormal event in 1989 on a tour, the theme of which was the real and the legendary King Arthur. This was a tour that was offered through the History Book Club, of which I was a member at the time. It was a monthly book club. I don't even know if it's still around anymore, but my parents gave me this trip as a graduation gift, and it ended up being pretty much the best gift anyone's ever given me. Anyway, here we were in Cornwall, or it may have been Wales. I forgot to Google before I started filming. I will put down the proper location for this site. That is called Pentri Ifan. Pentri Ifan is known as a dolmen burial site. These dolmens were erected by the Celts, and usually there were people of importance who were cremated within them. And I'm not sure what was the connection to King Arthur as to why we were stopping in this particular one. I would have to go back and look at my notes I took during the trip. That was one of the stops, Pentri Ifan, and it's pretty well known. I've seen it mentioned in a couple of travel YouTube videos here. If you heard that, that's thunder. It's raining outside right now. And, I thought, okay, this will be a cool place to visit. And it really was. It's really cool, as you can see in the pictures. And so Aubrey was giving us a lecture about this particular dolmen and its importance to the Celts and, the surrounding area. And then we, as always, he was really cool about giving us free time. He'd go off, to the side somewhere, and we'd all just kind of wander aimlessly for, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, taking pictures and talking and whatnot. Just, taking it all in. So this was during our free time at Pentri Ifan. And there were like 2 or 3 couples there, each one of whom had 1 to 3 children with them. So we weren't the only people viewing the monument, but we were the only tour group there. So it was by no means crowded at all. And I'm walking around and I'm looking at the stones and stuff, and I'm looking to see if there's anything, carved on them. I mean, they do not have this roped off. At least they didn't in 1989 when I was there. You could walk right into it if you wanted to. I did not do that. It is a burial place. I believe all places should be treated with respect. So I'm always respectful when I visit places like this. And I, said my prayers there and, paid my respects. And then, was taking some close-up pictures and stuff. And all of a sudden I caught like a twinkle out of the corner of my eye. And I'm like, oh, what's this? And I look right at it. And of course I don't see anything, right? And I'm like, oh, that was weird. And I'm thinking, I hope I'm not developing an eye condition. There is an eye condition that does cause that twinkle. And as in my later years, I did develop it. But at the age of 22, I didn't have it. I have it now. But anyway, I was, talking to one of my friends in the tour group. I'm facing her. The dolmen is directly behind her. She's about maybe 4 feet in front of it. And all of a sudden I see twinkle up above her head. And I'm like, and she says, what's the matter? I said, I just saw something twinkle up there, like a little light. She's like, really? And she turns around, she's looking, where? And I'm pointing right where I see it, I get right next to her, and I'm like, it was right there. And she's like, there's nothing reflective there. And I'm like, I know, right? It's really weird. And so she starts kind of looking around. I start looking around, and then there was this couple in the tour group. I became really good friends with them. We stayed in touch for years and years later. He comes up to us. He says, "What are you talking about?" And we're like, she's seen some weird lights, and he's like, really, where? And so I start telling him. So he starts looking, and his wife comes up. What's going on over here? And then we tell her. She's like, oh, really? And so we all start kind of walking around like this, really hyper alert. Well, we're doing this, and our tour guide is watching us. And this is like about, I don't know, it was a few days into the trip. And we had already had a shared paranormal experience visiting Stonehenge. The entire group had this experience, including our guide. And if you want to watch about that, It's up here. The UFOs at the time that's mentioned in the title of this video, I was completely unaware of them in 1989. I didn't see the UFOs in my pictures until a few months ago when I was looking at them. That was a shocker. And it also explained the paranormal experience the group and I had as we walked across a field to Stonehenge. Because our guide took us along the path they dragged the stones. So we got to have that experience. We had to walk 2 miles for this experience, mind you, but we got to have the experience. Anyways, back to Pentri Ifan and the weird little twinkling lights. 2 or 3 other couples that were there at Pentri Ifan at the same time my tour group was. One of the moms says, oh, and we all look in her direction. And she turns to her husband and says, did you see that? Did you see that light? So she saw it as well. Our tour guide was off to the side, but he was within earshot. He overheard her and he comes walking up to us. And he says, are you seeing some strange lights? And the woman says to him, yes, I saw this little light just seem to flick on and flick out. It looked like a twinkle. Our tour guide, Aubrey, smiled and said, well, you know, the rumor is Pentri Ifan is a magnet for fairy energy. And we're all like, fairies? And me, I about flipped out because as a magical practitioner who'd been practicing since 1980, I work a lot with fairy energy because the house I grew up in, that whole neighborhood is very heavy in fairy energy. I should say heavy because it's a light energy there, but you know what I'm saying. Full of fairy energy. I once saw a cryptid walk through my backyard. That story is here if you'd like to check it out. And of course, I've had other fairy experiences and they will be coming up in a card in a minute or so. Also, you can check that out. And these other experiences will be linked in the description below the video. So I was just like, wow, because I've worked with fairy energies, for 9 years at that point. So I quickly ran off to a nearby tree where I saw some flowers and I respectfully asked, first, can I please snip these flowers? I didn't feel or sense any animosity. So I took a couple of the flowers, not all of them, and I found some stones nearby. I grabbed those and I took them over to the dolmen and I laid them inside the recessed area where the Celts would have cremated their dead. I set them there and I said a prayer to the fairies. And by this point, everybody's watching me, right? And I'm telling the fairies, thank you for manifesting for us. Thank you so much for showing yourselves to us. We appreciate the blessing and we send you much love and respect. And that was it. And I could hear people behind me going, oh, yes, thank you. And I turned back around. One of the women was crying, very touched by the whole experience. And all of a sudden, people were gasping and pointing. I spin around to look. I see nothing, but they all said the same thing, that there were several tiny lights around the offering I had placed inside the dolmen. Some said there were 3, some said there were as many as 6. There were at least 3. Of course, I missed the entire thing. But I'd already seen a few of the fairies, so I didn't feel that awful about it, but I really wish I had seen that final visitation. It would have been so amazing. But that was my paranormal experience at Pentri Ifan. Again, another one shared with a number of other people. So I thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. And again, as always, I send much love and appreciation to all of my returning subscribers. I am Nefer Kefri, your hostess with the ghostess, wishing you a very blessed day ahead.